Been in EXP for a little bit of background for me.
This is Mike Wall. Welcome back to another episode of the Agent Revolution podcast presented by Mike Wall Live, the place where we deconstruct the biggest challenges facing today's real estate agents so that they can build a sustainable, profitable, but most of all, fulfilling real estate business. Back at it again today. And I'm joined by Mega Agent Ramon Casaus. Is that the way to pronounce it, Ramon?
It's Casaus, but yeah, close, man. That was better than most people.
Ramon Casaus. I love it. And we're talking about how to build a rockstar culture for your brokerage or your team. Before we do that, don't forget you can go to Mike Wall Live to get 8 hours worth of free real estate business training. Ramon, are you ready to rock and roll, my man?
I'm ready to do this. Let's get it going, man.
Let's get it going. And before we broke into the show, man, you had asked me about my background, how long I had been at EXP. And we are about 2.5 years in, my man. And best move I ever made. I know you guys just recently moved over, and you guys have been doing some big things out in the state of New Mexico, and I'm super excited to dive into our topic, culture, today, how to build a rockstar culture. But before we do that, man, I always, I love to get everybody's background story. Tell me what you did before real estate, how you got into real estate, and your plans moving forward.
Cool. Yeah, so I got into real estate. I started working full-time in 2016. And I actually jumped into the business right out of college. So I went to the University of New Mexico, got a degree in finance. And before I was, let me back up. To fund my career in real estate, I actually worked in explosive demolition for about 4 months or so.
Nice. So you got to blow shit up all the time.
I blew shit up all the time. So... And I'll tell you what, man, those 14-hour days up on the job sites at the mine quarries and whatnot, the blast always made up for it. People ask me, was the work worth the end result? I'm like, it was worth it every time.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
I knew real estate was expensive, and I knew, the dues and startup fees and all blah, insurance. And so I was like, well, my $13 an hour job isn't going to pay for this. So what can I do? Oh, okay, explosives has really good hazard pay. I was traveling around the state all the time, so you got paid for travel. And then you had like extra hazard pay. So when we would do like oil fields or something, you're getting paid even more. So it was kind of a risk versus reward thing. But I started off as in 2016, and just like a lot of people that are probably listening, you go through the motions. Yeah. You throw things at the wall, you see what sticks. You start learning about technology. You start learning about structure of real estate businesses, how to create clients for yourself, the basic level stuff. And, one thing led to another. Single agent. I started a team my first 6 months, had 2 agents. And then, now we're in the 60, 70 mark and haven't looked back since.
Man, that's awesome, dude. That's a great story. And I always love getting everybody's background because it's like most people, unless their parents grew up in the real estate business, don't go to college thinking, you know what, when I get out, I want to be a realtor. You know what I mean?
So you either have, I think you have to, I call it, we all have a screw loose, but I intentionally loosened my screw because I was actually working with at a college, the exact what you're supposed to do, right? Follow the playbook, Go to college, get a good degree. And I was working for a publicly traded real estate investment trust, and I was down in Tampa, Florida. And this is, Fortune 100. I think they were ranked at the time number 11 best company to work for. It was called Camden Property Trust, and I just had the CEO on my podcast, awesome guy, Rick Campo. But I did that, and what happened was I lost my creativity. So 9 to 5, I'd go to work. And then I'd get off. I'd go to the gym, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to start on like my real, like what I'm really going to do. Yeah. And I have Google right in front of my face, and I can't even think what to type into Google to start looking at, right? And so I realized real quick that, I don't like losing my creativity. And this 9 to 5 thing, I love it. The company's great. The situation's great. I was 21 years old living in Tampa, Florida. with a great job, but it just wasn't for me, man.
Yeah, dude, you sell your soul a little bit more every day. You know what I mean? When you do that. And the thing about college is you would never tell your son or daughter that you don't think college is a good opportunity. But realistically, what college is good for is producing really good employees. And I hate to say that because I'm going to encourage my sons, both of them, to go to college. But that's just how it's been. And what I think is going on in real estate right now, and I think it's really good for the consumer, is really smart people like you are starting to figure out, hey, I can make a lot of money in real estate, right? And what's happening is there's a bit of a paradigm shift, whereas, you know, it used to be your Uncle Joe, he went and got his real estate licensed and fell into, you know, 4 or 5 deals every year, right? Because you could just trust anybody with your real estate deal. Well, now with people like you getting into the business, really raising the bar and improving the consumer experience, it's like, why would I even use Uncle Joe? You know what I'm saying? And so yeah. I think it's really cool. I think we'll look back on this in a few years and we'll see how the real estate market improved. And we needed that. We needed that really bad because we're dealing on some levels with disintermediation, you know, with companies like Zillow and Open Door, who are always threatening the real estate commission. And so the demand for people like you, smarter people getting into the industry, is providing a better consumer experience. And that may help us last a little bit longer, brother. Would you agree with that?
I could not agree more. And, you know, what our company focuses on a lot now is I focus a lot on the development of new brokers, because that 18 to 25 range right now, maybe even a little more, that's going to be the next generation of the brokers who are creating businesses, right? Who are creating new services within the real estate industry, whether it's direct to consumer or ancillary services. They're the next minds of the generation of people working in real estate. And it's important that anyone who's in a leadership position understands that, takes it seriously, and does their part to help mold that professional and mold that person to actually bring value to the industry. You know, coming out of college, this is what it was straight up. There's no other way to put it. I made 5 times more than any of my friends who all had great paying jobs. First 2 years, easily 5 times more. And what you said was interesting. You don't have to necessarily jump out and be an entrepreneur. Like, there's nothing wrong with being a role player, because everyone's in their own journey, right? I may have fell into a leadership position a little bit sooner than somebody else, but that doesn't mean that you have to all of a sudden have to be this entrepreneur, this leader, creating culture. Like, you can be in your own journey, and being a role player, being an entrepreneur, as I like to say, a strong leader within a company, nothing's wrong with that. But I can tell you right now, and anyone listening, is that real estate, and especially the disruptive models that are out there right now, is the quickest way to get the resources you need to live the life you want to live. It's simple as that.
Yep. And that is so true, man, because the margins are really high in our industry, and there's not a lot of startup cost. I mean, if we're being realistic, right? There's little or no startup cost, just depending on, you know, what kind of tools or technologies you adopt, right, or what kind of, and I mean, you invest in yourself, obviously. That's the best investment you can make, obviously, is in yourself. And so I was a big on, you know, podcasts, reading books, and going to seminars and stuff like that. But you're right, man. The margins are large. You can make a lot of money. You can live the lifestyle you want. And it doesn't have to be through just selling residential real estate, right? There's investments. There's so many different things that you can do in real estate. And oftentimes you get in doing one thing and you end up doing something else, right? And that's what's so cool about our industry. But the real reason why you're on the show today, man, and before we jump into culture, you know, you started out as a single agent. You saw the demand, right, to be able to provide a better consumer experience. And so you consistently brought on leverage, right? You brought on people to help and provide a better consumer experience. So you guys are over a $50 million team. You guys did over 250 units. And tell everybody how long you've been doing this.
So, well, 4 years technically. Yeah.
So yeah. The guy's 250 transactions. He's over 52 million in 4 years. And that I don't know that I've heard too many people scaling a business that quickly. Yeah. But again, you understand it as a business. I had a guy on Tuesday. In fact, he was one of the co-founders, Brian Colhane of EXP, and he was saying, you know, there's realtors that happen to run a business, and then there's business people that happen to be realtors, and you're one of the business people that happen to be realtors. And I so love the approach that, you know, you wear a different hat, you look through a different lens than realtors do. You understand the consumer demand, whereas a realtor really, they're reactive, right? Somebody wants to see a property, they jump and go show it, right? That's the different mindset. And you're always thinking of, well, you know, how could you're a visionary, right? You're looking out, you're always ahead, right? And what's great is you talked about the entrepreneur, which there is a really high demand for really good people, especially in real estate, and they can make a ton of money too and don't actually have to get outside of their comfort zone and be an entrepreneur.
It's not for everybody.
It's not, but you know, that's all part of building that rock star culture, right? So I want you to speak to that, man. When did you start to learn that, you know what, I could do this on my own, but you know, alone I go fast, together I go far. When did you start to realize that I got to start bringing people on? My vision for this is much bigger than I originally anticipated.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, something I'd recommend to anybody is getting really clear on what you stand for. Because I think what happens is in real estate, we sometimes wear this vanilla hat, right? Where, oh, you know, depending on my client today, I'm going to be this person. Depending on, I go meet someone at a ranch or I go meet someone in the city, conservative, liberal, whatever, I'm just going to adjust to the trend, right? Yeah. And that's fine with consumers because there's a level of that you need to be able to level with them, for lack of better terms. But when you talk about culture of your brokerage or your team, you can't be everything for everybody. So what you have to do is really lay down your foundation on who you are and what you stand for. Yeah. And something that Brian will tell you too, Brian's a good friend of mine, is that they've been waving the EXP flag for 10 years. So a lot of times you see people that are changing their freaking Instagram bio, and they're a leader, then they're a philanthropist, then they're a CEO, then they're a, you have to plant your flag in the ground and stay consistent. And you got to wave it around every chance you get. You got to beat your own drum, and it takes time. Now, going back to, how you create, when that cultural journey began, I always went into real estate knowing I actually didn't want to sell real estate. I know that sounds crazy. You guys are like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So that's why I was talking about resources, is because my first couple of years in real estate, I made a lot of money for being 24 years old, a lot. And so I knew that, okay, I don't have a wife, I don't have kids, I don't go on fancy vacations. I have a very low, I'm very low maintenance.
Yeah.
Let me take the investment today. I will take those resources and I will start building the foundation of my business now instead of later. And to me, I think that organizational leadership is worth more than understanding the ins and outs of any sales contract. That's just who I am as a person. It's how I think. So going back to when I started, I made the conscious decision. I'm going to take probably roughly about 10 to 7 times less pay that I'm getting right now to start running this business. Because instead of me pouring back into myself, I have an admin team of 10 now that I pour into. Mm-hmm. That those resources go into them and go into the quality of the business, not just my pocket. So it's a very hard decision to make. And I feel like the longer you go on, you do get married, which is great. You have kids, you go on vacations, you guys buy houses, you make investments, you pay for college. That's fine. But if you want to build culture and build a business, you got to make that investment at some point. And it seems like to me, the longer it goes on, your life, your risk tolerance goes down, shorter and shorter and shorter. So making that investment to your business and your culture as soon as you possibly can, if you know that's what you want to do, that'd be my first recommendation. Because other than that, you're going to stay a 1-2-man show till you're 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, and then it's never going to change.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. And, the one thing that comes to mind for me, and I won't say I've struggled with this, but it's definitely been a rock in my shoe. It's like finding really good quality people and then getting out of my own way. And what I mean by getting out of my own way is I used to, when I hired, I held everybody accountable to my standard, right? And that was the wrong way to do it. And what I meant by my standard is I looked at everybody. I thought everybody should look through the same lens I went to. It's not that I shouldn't have a standard. If you're coming on this team, we have a standard for production, but it's I would always say, well, why wouldn't somebody want to make the calls? You know what I mean? And not understanding that there are different personality subsets that, you can be a good real estate agent without making hundreds of phone calls.
So check this out. I know exactly what you're getting to, because this is a pivotal point in our business on building culture.
Yeah.
If you are listening right now and you are frustrated with your sales team, so a lot of us type A personalities, D on the DISC profile, you get frustrated easily. You want everyone to work at the same intensity that you work at. You want them to follow the same structure that made you successful, because you're like, look, here's the playbook. Why would you not follow it?
Right.
What changed for us is establishing core values of our company, which we talk about every single meeting. They're on our wall in our office. We have literally months that we celebrate a different core value of our business. And establishing our mission, what our company is all about and what we're doing. When I started taking the focus off of pending count, transactional count, new listings, GCI. Now, don't get me wrong. Do we measure all of those things till this day? Yes, but that's for me to do. Because guess what? Our brokers care nothing about how many pending transactions our company has. So what we realize is that when you start, I want them to be better, but you want to create a culture where they want to be better for themselves, right? It's a whole different mindset. I didn't realize that. I had a coach that helped me with a lot of things, like my eye contact, my shoulders. I'm kind of an intimidating person, allegedly, to be around. And I didn't think any of that, but they told me, they're like, yeah, man, believe it or not, your brokers probably think the exact opposite of what you think. If you think this way, they probably think the other way.
Yeah.
And I never realized, to me, and anyone who's in a leadership role, especially in a younger journey like me, I didn't realize that that's how they thought, was probably opposite. And like, I'll give you an example. When I was younger, not being married, I'm still not married or anything like that, but kids, I didn't realize that if I made one comment, either I gave someone a compliment, one of our admin team, one of our brokers, or I got super frustrated, that was going to be the conversation potentially at their dinner table that night.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize the impact I had on other people until somebody pointed out to me. And to build culture, man, you have to be so conscientious of yourself, because you got to check yourself at the door. And what you just said about standards, here's a great way to understand that. I still do hold a high standard, but guess what? I set the standard, but there's always a law of diminishing return, right? So if my standard is 100%, that means that people, me being the owner, me being the person in charge, no one's going to treat the business like I treat it. They might treat it at 70%.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want people to treat the business at 100%, that means that I personally need to be at 130%. Then they will get closer to, because they're always going to be a little bit less than you. So that's why establishing core values, establishing what you stand for, it's a level of accountability that most people aren't used to. Because the moment that you say one thing and do another, it's over. Your team loses respect, they lose trust. It's just going to crumble apart. So like establishing that as an entity on who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, your standards, and then following through on them, it's an accountability that a lot of people have never had, especially as your organization continues to grow. All eyes are on me all the time, and I'm okay with that because I love holding myself at a higher standard. That's how you have, right? That's all it's all about, right? Getting better and better.
Right.
And that's one of the easiest ways to do it.
Yep. And it's so cool that you say that, because when I think of core values, when I think of, having standards, what you're doing is you're creating a separate identity of the business, right? And then that separate identity belongs to everybody. It belongs to you, the team leader, and then it also belongs to each of your agents. And then they take pride in that, right? Everybody takes pride in that, because we're all identifying as a team through our core values and through our standards, right? Because that's the net you're casting out into the real estate community, not only for your clients, but also for other agents, right?
Yep. And if you want to attract talent, right? Talent goes to places that they understand. Now, there's other things that are involved with that, attracting talent, but talent, they want to trust who they're working for. They want to trust that they know what this company stands for and what they're all about. Talent doesn't just, if you notice that, talent doesn't just go to one-off shops. Why? because they don't trust that this is the right place for them to be. They don't trust the ownership. They don't know what it stands for. They don't know what it means when the name gets somebody, they tell somebody the name they work for. They don't know what their clients are going to think. And that's why attracting top talent is so important. And plus, when you look at, if you're in a leadership role, do you want people to say, I mean, honestly, do you want them to go, oh yeah, I work at Mike Wall Real Estate. It's all right. It's just a place to hang your license. Or do you want them to go, I fucking love Mike and I love what this business stands for. I bleed Mike Wall Real Estate. What do you want? Who do you think is going to work harder? Who do you think is going to go the extra mile for the clients? Who do you think is going to be a better marketing piece for your brand and ultimately have a better career in real estate? Which one of those people do you think?
Yeah. No. It's perfect, dude. It's a great point. Let me ask you this, man. What kinds of things do you guys do as a group to kind of galvanize the team?
Yeah, man. Oh, absolutely. So, what's funny is that when I first was learning about culture, and it's crazy because I never ever want anyone to hear like I'm waving the success flag around. Okay. Yeah. I've learned a thing or two about culture, and I believe we have a great one. And I used to think some things were corny, right? Like many of us do, core values, taglines, little like company handshakes, rituals that you do. Like I used to like, oh, that's kind of, blah, I don't know about that. And I was embarrassed because I wasn't confident that I really knew what I stood for. Yeah. Right. And I get that. It happens to all of us. We get a little bit of imposter syndrome. But like, I'll give you an example. Our company, and I'm start small and then I'll go big. Our company meets every week, every Wednesday, 10 a.m. without fail. And we have about an 80% rate on our company calls. And that's for independent contractors. It's pretty good. Yeah. So we're always meeting every week and we reiterate our mission statement and we call it our why do we exist, right? It's called our mission statement to the general public, but we always view it internally as why do we exist? To be the most trusted and elite real estate experience in the world. That's why we exist, point blank, period. And we reference that for everything. We use our core values as reference points. We hire, we fire, we award, we recognize, all based around the core values. It's that simple. Yep. But you might think, okay, but our birthdays, right? Though that's part of recognition. So every broker is always recognized on their birthday, right? We have little things that I'll show you this internally. Okay. We call it gas up our brokers. This is literally our cheat sheet for, we're all busy, right? We're all busy in our office. When a broker comes in or somebody comes into our office or our admin team, we have it's actually called greet, ask, and serve. First thing you do, stop what you're doing and greet the person. I know that sounds crazy, right? Number 2, ask them how their weekend was. Ask them about their wife. Ask them about their kids. How's their dog doing? Create a conversation that matters to them, something that they care about. And then last is serve. Offer a service. What can you do to help them? Where are they struggling in their business? So like, I know it sounds weird, but we have a script, not really a script, but a law that we put in place in our office that when somebody comes in, this is how we treat them, because nobody likes when you go into an office like, hey, what's up, man? I got to go. I'm off to something bigger and better, right? I can't talk to you that long. It's just little things like that go a long way.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. And really, it's not so much about, it's just being intentional about being authentic, right? It's like, because this business, let's be honest, man, it can be a grind sometimes. And sometimes all we have are each other to lean on, especially when you're on a team, man. So to get that and to be in that type of environment just shows, man, that, hey, I can always lean on Ramon, right? If I'm going to walk in the office, man, I know, like, if I see Ramon's going to make eye contact with me. He's going to greet me. He's going to ask me. He's going to see what he can do to help, man. And that's big, man, because I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? And like, I'm writing that down, man. That's something I would love to implement into our business, because I think those are those little things, Ramon, that we just don't do, that you just take a couple minutes out of your day to do that those build long-term relationships. And
what you want to think about too is like systematically, because you can't do anything one time and expect results, right? Same thing I was talking about being a drum. This is systematic because Yeah, we do work virtually a lot, but we still do have a lot of brokers who love to come to our office. Why do they love to come? Because of stuff like this.
Yeah.
And so it's not about doing one thing once. You want to implement it into your business where it's something that is systematically occurring.
Yeah.
So no matter what, someone's getting the same experience. And so, like, again, the mission statement or why we exist, it goes back to creating the most trusted and elite real estate experience. Experience is a broad term. So our admin team knows, well, if a broker's texting you, asking you questions, or needs to call you for something, or sends you an email with a question, how you respond and how you follow through on whatever request they had, that's part of the Rock Real Estate Partners experience, okay? So then it goes into everything you do. Here's one thing that we do too. This might be unique to our company, but how do you measure all of this? That's what I always love to know is, well, everyone says they have a great culture. Who doesn't say that? I mean, most people that practice culture or work on that stuff with their business, they all say it's great. So what we do, I learned this from a book called Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh, which is the founder of Zappos.
Yeah, great book.
Have you read it?
Yep.
Okay, so we do the culture book. Yep. Here, do you remember that part of the book? So we do the culture book. And for those of you who don't know, every year we publish a culture book where everybody from the sign guy to the admin to our brokers to our people in other states are all allowed to contribute to it. Anybody in the company can contribute to it. And it's going to answer 3 questions. What is Rock Real Estate Partners culture? What is your favorite part of Rock Real Estate Partners culture? And what makes Rock Real Estate Partners culture different from other real estate companies? Mm-hmm. And the rules are, we only edit grammatical errors. That's it. We don't change a single input. We don't change a single letter except if the word is spelled wrong. And then everyone's able to contribute to it, and it's public facing. The whole company gets it, and we use it for marketing. We always have, hey, you want to see what we're all about? Download our culture book. You can see right there firsthand what our brokers are saying.
That's awesome, dude. I love that, man.
So that's how we measure ourselves. Is like, and I get nervous, man. Like, don't get me wrong. We work hard at culture, but I'm always like, oh man, all right, let's see. Here it is. Let's go through it. And
that's real, dude. That's real. But you know what? That type of transparency is how you're able to pivot and make changes quickly. And not that you've had to do that because, the ship's been steered in the right direction. But in the event that, you do get off course, you know how to course correct extremely quickly when you're dealing with that type of transparency.
Yeah. And the other part, speaking about transparency, I told you I was going to start small and go big with culture stuff. So little things like how we greet brokers in the office, our little handshakes, talking about, the core values, referencing why we exist on a continuous basis. We just talked about the culture book, but something I'd recommend to anybody, I don't care how big your team is. If you got 2 people with you, you should be doing this. We do a quarterly culture climate survey. We survey our entire organization. So when the culture book comes around, I'm not taking guesses at what's going to be in it. I already know because we're asking brokers on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your experience at Rock Real Estate Partners? Would you recommend your grandma, your mother, your dad, or your brother, your sister work at Rock Real Estate Partners opposed to any other company? We go through all the way top to bottom, and we get a climate survey, and we figure out, hey, as we continue to grow, because we're growing by probably 10 brokers a week at this point. Wow. And so we're like, well, the last thing we want to do is lose our culture, right? Who we really are, what's proprietary to us as we grow. Yeah. So we're constantly monitoring it. So it doesn't always have to be culture. Like if you don't have a huge organization, which we don't really have a huge one, it's about, small, medium-sized. I would always recommend any type of survey where people can give honest results, honest responses, and you're asking the hard questions. And then what you do is you reiterate to them that, hey, guys, thank you so much for the responses. I want to let you know I read every single word. And I appreciate all the feedback. Our admin team, we're going to come up with an action plan and make sure that any areas we can get better, we address. And you actually tell them what you're going to do, and then you do it. Yeah. Talk about building trust and transparency where people feel that they can give their honest feedback, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. right? Doesn't matter what if you're in a leadership role, what your team thinks and what your team wants, that's what you need to do. So you have to put that ego aside, how I see it, or how I think it should be, or how I think they should be responding, and just let them tell you what they want and what they need, and then it's your job as a leader to give it to them and provide it.
Yeah,
that's simple.
Dude, I'm gonna read that book again, man, because that was probably like the first or second book I ever read. Seriously, man.
So good, man. So good.
It is a really good book, and I need a refresher on that. It is a great, and by the way, whoever's watching this or listening to this, it is a great book on just culture. It's a great book because, you know, obviously before Zach was sold out to Amazon, you know, he built $1 billion shoe business basically online, but he did that, and he references a lot in the book about the people and some of the things he did, like what you were talking about, like the culture book. They came up with all this stuff like internally, and it really created like a really cool atmosphere where everybody wanted to go to work every day. Everybody was, and I'm not going to say everybody was happy every single day, but they created a culture that kind of drove empowering people and really, I don't know, and really embracing like that. And I get this vision of like everybody walking in, like and it's confetti everywhere and people are singing and dancing. But you know, the reality of it is, it's like, and as goofy as that sounds, that's kind of what you want. You want everybody to want to come to work every day, and you want to have fun with what you're doing, because, you know, I mean, work can be monotonous, especially if you're an agent, man. You know, you're out there negotiating deals, contracts are falling apart in the 11th hour, you know, you're dealing with inspection issues, whatever. And so when you're around your group, your tribe, right, you want that support, man. You want that shoulder to lean on. And what I said in the remarks, I stand by wholeheartedly, is that if you create the ideal culture, people will never leave you. People just won't leave. Like, I mean, there are brokerages around here that pay a very low commission split that have a wonderful culture, and people won't leave because they love the culture. It's really, and I love that. I would never, I think, you know, that for that particular gentleman, he's done a really good job at building a great culture, and kudos to him.
And when you say culture, you said ideal culture. Ideal is subjective, right? You have to, if you're in the leadership role, like, you got to create the culture that you can get behind, because at the end of the day, you know, following a great book called Extreme Ownership, it all comes down to you.
Yeah.
Everything, every decision, good or bad, every result is all a direct reflection of the leader. That's the only way to look at it. And so it has to be a culture that you can get behind, because what might be ideal to Joe may not be ideal to Jane, and that's okay. And that's what I was talking about, you know, I see these all the time, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I see these, you know, pictures when everyone's in the suits, different faces, same house, you know, smiling. We're your, you know, XYZ team, and that's cool. Like, do your thing. But we're getting to a point where that vanilla, I stand for everybody and everything, people don't like that anymore. Yeah. They want to know who you are. That's the American way of doing business. Who you are, who you go to sleep with that night, where you live, what are your interests, who are you voting for? That's what they want to know. Yeah. And you're not going to be everything for everybody. So you have to just remember is that a culture that you can get behind, that you created, that you can make sure you're providing enough to is huge. It doesn't have to be, you know, this quote unquote ideal culture. Ideal is whatever you want it to be.
Yep. And ideal is different. It's a subjective word. You're right. It's different to everybody. And you need to make sure, as much as you need to be bought in as a leader, you also need to make sure that that's in alignment with where, you know, your team members want to be as well, right? Because
yeah.
Ideal means something to you. Ideal means something different to me.
100%. I'll give you an example. One of the core values of our business: 24/7. Why? Because we operate 24/7. Oh, well, I have family and kids. Okay, that's fine. If you don't want to operate 24/7, we're the wrong business for you. Simple as that. Yeah. And I'm not saying I mean, you know, we explain this all the time. We're not saying neglect your, you know, obligations outside of work. Yeah. What we're saying is that when a client out in the world is trusting you and you're a part of our company, real estate's a 24/7 game, whether you like it or not. So either you're going to adapt to it or you're going to fall behind. And we're going to adapt. So if you don't like that, hey, I understand. Go to 9 to 5 realty. That's fine with me. I think that'd be a better fit. I want you to live a life you enjoy, not one you hate. You know, it's fine.
Yep. Yep. No, no, no. I love it, man. So tell me this, man, because I'm curious. I know, I probably know where you're going with this, but I want to hear it from you. What has, and you guys did recently move over to EXP, and I want to talk some about that, but the reality of what you've built and the culture, what has that done for retention for you and your team?
Put it this way, we've lost 10 brokers in 4 years.
Okay. Which is
So
outstanding.
yeah. And you know what, and I think they were all great people. And I think a lot of them are doing well. And but what happened was it was like a natural weed out. Like we already knew it was going to happen, and they kind of felt that this just wasn't the right fit. It wasn't like, hey, you crossed me or you were stealing my, it wasn't any of that. It's just like, hey, I just don't think I'm a good fit here. And it was like,
Five Realty working at 24/7 Realty.
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't like hard feelings, or hey, this split is it's a little too much for me, and well, hey, I understand. Yeah, no, there's definitely other options out there. Explore them, and if we can ever do anything for you again, absolutely. So, back to your question about what was the question again? Exactly.
What has it done for retention? And you if you want to, you can interlace your move to EXP because you don't know this about me, but before I moved to EXP, we were on the verge of opening a market center for Keller Williams here in Ohio. And ultimately, the reason why I chose EXP over Keller Williams is because while Keller Williams at the time financially was a better decision for me, I knew ultimately that my success long-term in this business would be predicated on what we did for the team. And so we knew that for the team, financially, right, in most every other aspects we're learning now, it was a better decision to go to EXP. And we're so glad we did, because now we're offering the opportunity for rev share. Now we're offering the opportunity for ownership through stock awards, right? And not only, we also have a competitive commission structure. But I want to hear what it's done for you as it relates to the culture you've built. So how have you created that magnetic culture that binds people to you?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it just like you said, man. I mean, you said it earlier about how there's very small splits. I hate to call them discount brokerages. It's just like a negative term. They just have different structures, and people are staying there, even though it might not be the best, but they love the culture. Yeah. So the same thing applies. Not saying that we're in that same boat. What the point I'm making is that the culture, people, when they're enthusiastic about what they do, okay, they vibrate at a higher level. They don't let little tiny inconveniences freak them out and go down this wormhole of, oh God, I have to change. Like brokers freak out. That's just what we do. And the best real estate sales people are emotionally driven. It's simple as that. They're not pragmatic thinkers. They're aesthetic. They drive off of emotion, right, whatever those emotions might be. So what happens is those little inconveniences, they overlook them because the big picture is I have a culture, I have a team, it's strong, there's a good foundation, people have my back. And people want that safety and security more than they don't want to overlook small little inconveniences. So, for retention wise, it's everything. But I think what's more important with retention is that it creates, before we did EXP, 90% of our operation of our company was all referred internally, which means that out of 10 brokers that came onto our organization, 9 of them were referred by another broker in our office already.
Yeah.
Okay. And so going back to even furthering that retention is with that EXP split, I was like, well, shit, writing's on the wall. If 9 out of 10 are already referred, we just get to compensate our brokers more. And what better than to add an additional revenue stream to their business? Now, don't get me wrong. As an independent, we were an independent company. I had a small referral fee, like $200-300. High five, thank you. This is going to be awesome. That's all we could do. Yeah. Now giving them the freedom and the flexibility to go be entrepreneurs in their own way, retention wise, it's everything. I mean, because with culture, it doesn't matter if it's EXP, if it's Rock Real Estate Partners, if them merge, it doesn't matter. You have to cast a vision so big that they can see their goals, they can see their future, they can see the things they want to achieve in that umbrella of your vision. They have to be able to see it with this organization. It doesn't matter what company it's with. So I think now the merger did is I already had a casted a big vision. It was already big.
Right.
It's no pun intended, exponentially bigger now. And I get to share that vision with our brokers. And I think it's cool is because when you look at a traditional brokerage model, like, you're never going to be me. Not going to happen. You're never going to be Gary Keller. You kidding?
Right.
It's never going to happen. But with EXP, you do have the opportunity to build out an organization that is bigger than the person who brought you on, or is bigger than the leader of the organization. You have it's crazy the vision it creates. And I'm just, I go back to legacy, and if I died today, I think that was a better move for our agents, and I'd be happy that I made a decision for them.
Yeah.
And that's how I always look at it.
Love it, man. I love it. Well, we are right up against the clock here, man. Ramon, but before we jump off here, tell me, how can people get in touch with you? I know you guys have a big network out in the West, New Mexico in particularly, but I know you're building out people. You guys are attracting people into your network. You guys are doing some really big things. What is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, man. Probably the best way is my Instagram, and I actually tagged you in a post right before we got on. So it's Ramon RAMON _ABQ. And yeah, for anyone listening too, I'm an open book. Like, when I got into real estate, nobody told me shit, and they all lied to me. So I mean, no, we don't got to go through the franchise names and all that stuff, but nobody gave me the hard facts and the real truth. So just know I'm an open door, and however I can help, I don't care what company you're with. I'm always more than happy to.
Love it, man. If you guys, please, if you have any referrals, send them into New Mexico, Albuquerque area. Please send them to Ramon and his team. No doubt they will do a good job for you. Well, as usual, I love sharing these stories week after week. I know this show is literally changing agents' financial lives, my own included. Do me a big favor. If you know someone that might enjoy the podcast, please share it with them. And if you like the podcast, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure and subscribe. And if you like Mr. Ramon's episode today, please give us a 5-star review. Don't forget to visit MikeWallLive.com, where you can get 8 hours of free, absolutely free real estate business training. Thanks for listening. Ramon, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it.
Mike, thanks, man. I love the energy, dude. This is awesome.
Yes, sir, man. All right, we'll talk again soon.
All right, Mike, take it easy.
All right, buddy.